And once again, this meeting is being recorded. So there are only a few items to be discussed today. If you have any, feel free to add to it. The first thing is that 0.80 is released last week. So Code Orange is officially over.
Yay!
Who's the bug? I'm working on it.
Yay!
All right, so the next thing is 0.81. So once again, there is no plan for 0.81 unless we find some critical bugs in 0.80 that we need to fix. Right? I created a tracker, a GitHub issue tracker, just to collect information about all these potential issues or potential critical bugs. And based on this information, we'll evaluate the need for creating this batch release, and all the communication will happen in the tracker. Any question? Okay, if not, we can move on to the third topic already. Sab, you want to talk about Tide?
Yes, I don't have any presentation, but basically I can talk about it. So I've, as of last week, I have enabled Tide, which is the merging bot on every repo. And one of the important things to know, so I can actually just show that. I sent an email to the developers, and let me go present. That's a new UI. Again. Okay, that's me. So all the configuration for Tide is stored in the testinfra repo, and there is a config.yaml. I'm just gonna make that a little bigger. And so we're using, so first, the Tide configuration. So you can define basically queries to GitHub on how you want to, merge, what kind of labels you want to expect on your PR so that can be merged, and what kind of PR should be missing. And then you can define the kind of method for merging. So in all the Istio project, we use Squash. So each time we add a new repo, then we have to basically add the Squash method for all those things. So right now, Tide works on Istio GitHub.io, Istio proxy, and testinfra. And then there is a context option so that you can basically look at the branch protection and figure how you're gonna what kind of test you expect to be passing before you merge. And because we use the branch protection in GitHub, so I created basically that plugin that use that. And so that, I guess I don't have to talk about that option too much. And so the second part of the Tide integration is that basically each time we are going to add new required check, meaning something new from Circle CI, we want to add them actually in the Pro configuration, and Pro will push it to GitHub. And the reason we want to do that is because we want to be able to audit the change, because we want to know why a test was added, and why it was removed as well. And currently, the GitHub API doesn't allow us to audit that. So that's the reason we. So the source of truth is actually the Pro config, and as soon as you change it and you commit your PR, it will be pushed to Pro, and Tide will read it. You cannot just push to a repo to change it. you have to create a PR. But that's the only. And here, one of the questions people might ask is where are all the pro jobs listed? So because this is the pro configuration, it actually inferred the required check from the pro jobs. And you can see some of the jobs have the optional equal true. And that means that job is not required to merge. So if, and also you can, there is a skip branch option in every pre-submit configuration. So if there is a job that doesn't actually apply to the branch that you're working on, you can just do a skip branch, and the branch protection will not consider it for merge. But that's basically it. So right now, when the change is pushed to the branch protection configuration, it will update GitHub once a day. It's not going to update GitHub on PRs. I think in the future we'll have something like this that can actually look for webhook and directly push on GitHub. Right now it's not like that. It's a cron job that basically runs once a day. So people can still change the thing on GitHub, and like admins only can change on GitHub and make the PR push, but hopefully this is a no-no. People won't do that. And if we, all the org admins have access to the Istio test infra repo, and if we need to add more people to be able to change the configuration, we'll do that. I think by default, we'll probably create an on-call, and the on-call will have access to all those repos. We probably have that already.
Do we have any README or instructions?
Yes, so I did create the wiki for this. And I added the working with Tide under the working with Circle CI. I got this reviewed by Martin, but please, if you find any inconsistency or if you have any question, then let me know and I'll update it.
And did you update the on-call playbook about the merge bot, troubleshooting merge bot?
No, but okay.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, and one option of the bot is that, we have a status. So if you don't understand why your PR is not being merged, then you can always look at the status here. So it's on, if you go to prow, the URL of prow, you can go to the tight status. Make that bigger. And you see all those things are actually not being merged because they have a failing test. So if I click on any random one, I should see that required tests are not being passing. So yeah, this test is required and it's not passing. So that's why so this one is passing, but it's probably not being merged for. Yeah, so this one is in the queue. So basically pros asking those tests to be rerun. So Tide will try to batch, I think, but most of the case is going to be doing one PR at a time. So that's the reason is we're still waiting for those results to pass to merge. So it's been enabled for a week, and it did merge some PR last week. I think it kind of, so if you look at the close one, this is never the good view. Yeah, so this last one were kind of committed manually by people, but some of them were actually merged by the bot. Here. So I'm hoping that eventually we won't have people merging manually, and that we'll get the bot to merge.
I think last week we had a problem when some Circle CI test jobs were removed and it went out of sync with this config file.
Yeah, so if people change on GitHub but don't change prod doesn't have any idea on what tests are required. So it will still wait for the tests that are failing to be passing, even though it's inconsistent with GitHub. So that's why like the way to do that is actually to push it directly in Pro, and Pro will read it right away. Even though it's not updating GitHub, it will still use that data right away. And then like once a day, I'll push it to GitHub, and then the UI is going to be consistent. But hopefully we should be changing required check like, once a week or something, or even once a month. It should not be changing. We should be fixing the test as opposed to disable them.
I think that case was because the V1 tests were getting removed. So the whole job was removed, not because the tests were getting
I see. Yeah. But yeah, like it's a one-time thing. Oh, I shouldn't show that. Nothing else to do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cool. So the merge pod should be working. The master branch has been open for more than a week already, and the merge pod is working. If there is any question, let us know.
Yeah. What is the timeline for 1.0?
Great. I think you should be talking about it, right?
Wait, you just hand the question back. Sure. Our plan, I think, is that we will cut a monthly, right, at some point at the normal time in June.
Great. So yes, there will be a regular monthly release in June, which is supposed to be a 1.0 pre-release or whatever we call it. And then in July, hopefully we can get 1.0, right?
Yeah, so the plan is end of June to do the branch, right? Try to do the branch, 1.0 branch.
Yeah.
So we have a month, less than a month, 4 weeks. 4 weeks to destabilize everything, and then we restabilize it.
Okay. Well, hopefully we won't destabilize it. But the plan being this month is meant for like feature development and potentially a little bit more risky changes in master. And then after the pre-release, we need to stabilize it as soon as possible and make sure 1.0 can be released next month.
1 month.
Yeah.
Hey, so just have a comment. We've been working on being able to release Istio from Git on Borg. Now that we're almost ready to start releasing for GKE, I'm wondering who are the right people to sort of figure out what cadence and how we're going to tie this to the upstream release.
So maybe we can talk about it in a different meeting.
Sure, I'll send out an email and get that going.
Yeah, thanks. Okay.
Maybe I should give an update on Boscos because there was a lot of issues last week.
Oh, sure, please.
Yeah, so there was basically some issues with creating cluster in some of the GCP regions. And so that kind of triggers some issues in the Boscos and Mason code that we didn't properly deal with. But basically now, instead of creating all the cluster in one specific region, we're just round-robin across all regions. So we should see much less issues and also increase the pool of the number of projects. So we have 100 projects now. And I think in a very busy day, we use like at most 50. So we should have plenty of room for.
So the problem was because we ran out of resource in one region?
Yeah, but you can't tell from the project point of view, you don't know. It's only when after you create that you know, like, oh, there is not enough resource. And I didn't find any API to actually query that, so I'm just looking at all the regions and creating one in a different project each time.
Okay.
In a different region each time. And yeah, and I fixed also the Boscos issues. But hopefully that should be much better than.
And so we probably should remove the V1 proud test, or the proud test for V1, similar to how we removed them from Circle already. That could probably save some resources as well.
Okay, I'll take a look at that.
Okay, and the next thing is test grid. So the test results are already visible on test grid. And we have the pre-submit and post-submit separation on this dashboard. The good thing about the post-submit.
I don't think you're presenting.
Huh? Oh, I'm not. Oh. All right. So this is the test grid dashboard. There are post-submit tab and pre-submit tabs. So the post-submit tab is useful because the test run from the merged PRs. So you can actually take a look and see whether a test is already passing or already failing in the submitted code base. And on the pre-submit tab, you can see the test results for other PRs. So in case a test is failing for your PR, you can take a look and see if the test is also failing for other PRs, and that could give you some idea about whether it's an infrastructure problem or it's just your PR. Right. So this should be a very useful tool for troubleshooting, debugging, or development. Please make use of it. Any question about test grid or anything? Any topics so far?
Is it easily accessible from like when a test fails?
When a test?
Like the GitHub UI? If it is, that would be, I think, super helpful.
What do you mean though?
Like if I go to my GitHub page and then I see some test failure, right? And from there I can go to the test itself, but like, can I actually trampoline to this one, or do I need to keep the link to this somewhere in my bookmarks?
It's not integrated from GitHub. Like you can go to this page from GitHub directly.
Yeah, because we can't change basically. Circle CI pushed the context to GitHub to give the link of the status. So we can't really change that thing. I mean, we'd have to do a.
Would it be possible to maybe set the bot so that if it detects the test failure, then it sends you like, hey, you can take a look at this link to see if there are flakes or something? I mean, it can be just a very simple like link to the top page so that people can be trained to use it.
Yeah, I guess that can be
on the PR or on the
PR.
Like, okay, so ideally, I submit my PR and then one of the tests fails, right? And the bot says, okay, I noticed that one of your tests failed. Here's a link where you can go and see if this is a flake or not. And that's it, right? It doesn't have to be formatted or like, it doesn't have to give you the landing page, like the context-specific link for your test. It can be just the main homepage for this system. But even that is, I think, would be super useful.
Yeah, I think that can be done. Probably just take some time.
Would it also be possible to kind of integrate this so that if something is determined to be flaky, that CI might actually retry?
Yes, potentially.
Yeah, I think in the sweat team we'll be working soon on something like this.
Right. So we are going to work on some test flakiness, data collection for the test flakiness, and based on that information, we should be able to decide whether the infrastructure can just rerun certain flaky tests. But whatever you're seeing here is mostly a UI. it doesn't have a querying mechanism that we can find out whether a test is flaky or not very easily.
Okay, gotcha. By the way, Sven, looking very summery today. Well done.
It's so hot out.
Not in San Francisco.
It's been like 90.
Okay, so Lauren, I think you added this
Yeah, I
one.
just
right?
added that, but we don't have to talk about it now if we're not ready. But
We still have a few minutes if you.
So Nate started that doc like beginning of May, and I was curious what the next steps are and the timeline for it.
So next steps are Kamiko. It's kind of on the back burner for her at the moment, but she's going to take a better look at requirements. Basically, we have two apps, right? In our current test framework, we have some. I think the simple end-to-end tests use Fortio kind of as their little client to kind of force to simulate traffic between services. The pilot tests use its own app. So we basically want to have one app for the test framework. So Kamiko is going to look at Fortio to see, does it in fact meet all the use cases for the pilot end-to-end tests? If it does, maybe we'll just use Fortio, which is probably going to be the case. And if there's something Fortio doesn't do that we need it to do, then obviously that'll be an action for Fortio.
Okay.
So that's,
Yeah,
that's
I was
kind of
just
where
curious how it moves. Okay, thanks.
Oh, it's basically to replace the.
So there's a Pilot has its own echo server and its own kind of client that has the same features, but it's just more like less production, I guess, or more hacked together in the Pilot app. The only thing that Fortio doesn't do is the WebSocket part, which can probably stay, I guess, as an extension. But everything else is used in Mixer and Mixer test and rate limit test and a bunch of other tests using Fortio directly. So I think my recommendation is to have only one code base to maintain for simulating applications. But
and does it mean that we could also get rid of the Bookinfo test and?
Well, Bookinfo, there's a separate need for that, right? The need is to make sure we don't break the demos that are on the site. So it should not be used really for functional testing. It's more like to make sure that the tasks on the site, the website, steer the value on it, broken accidentally. But yeah, we should move more feature-oriented testing to synthetic apps and leave Bookinfo just as a make sure we don't break Bookinfo
release or something. We don't have to run on President probably.
Yeah, but the thing is, there hasn't been a replacement for everything that is in Bookinfo, so that's why. Yeah. We'd have to write the new test before we kill the old ones.
Yes.
Okay. But for the WebSocket support, right? Are you up to?
So Fortio is a library, right? Not just like you can run it as a service, but you can run it as a library too. So I would think and if you look at the way the WebSocket is actually tested in the pilot app, it's really not, it's kind of hackish. It starts as a HTTP and then it just echoes one line of WebSocket and tries to read it back. So I think that can stay as a side thing. The reason why, otherwise we can add also dependencies, but I've been keeping Fortio like 3 megabytes images because it has the only dependency is gRPC so far, and I'm not sure I want to pull in a bunch of other dependencies. So that would be the tension.
Okay, sounds good. All right, I think that's all for today. Anyone has any other things to be discussed? Okay, if not, see you guys next week.